Undead Matt, and welcome to my macabre movie mania. Today's episode is my very special Christmas episode. What? It's not Christmas. Why would I know? I never leave the dimension. Well, shit. What other movie do we have? Ugh, Chile? That's too horrible even for me. Well, let's just go with what we planned anyways. Gremlins! Yes, today we're talking about the 1984 horror comedy classic, The Gremlins. The idea of a gremlin was first inspired in World War II, when pilots would have weird control and mechanical issues that were unexplained. It would eventually inspire Roald Dahl to make a book about them called The Gremlins. And that inspired the movie we are talking about today. Gremlins was written by Chris Columbus, who would eventually gain notoriety for directing such classics as and
You're a wizard, Harry.
He wrote it as a spec script, not something he meant to be a movie, but something that could show off his writing talents and get him more work. That was, of course, until Steven Spielberg came along. Weirdly enough, the other nerdy guy on this channel just reviewed one of his movies. You could check it out. Or not. Once Steven Spielberg was on board, he recruited director Joe Dante because he enjoyed his work on The Howling. Of course, Joe Dante would go and direct the best comedy of all time. Once our team was assembled, in June 8th, 1984, we get Gremlins. Our story begins as an inventor trying to sell his inventions in China comes across a mystical shop. And there he finds a mogwai. He buys it and names it Gizmo. And let's take a moment, please, and just admire how cute Gizmo is. Oh my god, I'm gonna die.
Oh, isn't it cute? Has it got a name, Dad?
Yeah, Mogwai.
What?
Mogwai. I don't know, some Chinese word. I just call him Gizmo. He seems to like it.
Of course, mogwais have 3 specific rules you must follow. You can't get them wet. You can't expose them to daylight. And the most confusing rule, you can't feed them after midnight. Like, is that like midnight to 6 a.m. or midnight in their time zone? I mean, this rule has caused so much debate, it was actually parodied in the sequel movie. The inventor gives Gizmo to his son Billy, who of course breaks every freaking rule. Way to go, Billy, asshole. And we find when you get the mogwais wet, they multiply. And when you feed them after midnight, they turn from cute, fuzzy creatures to dark, green, disgusting gremlins. Most of the rest of the movie is filled up with the insanity of the gremlins going on a rampage. destroying the entire town, calling back to classic 50s horror movies that have a single town invaded by a creature and only has one man who knows how to stop them. Of course, Gremlins is a great movie for your 1980s bingo card, as it has both Judge Reinhold and Corey Feldman in it. Oh man, if I just had someone that said gag me with a spoon, I'd totally have the diagonal. Of course, eventually, all the Gremlins trap themselves in the movie theater watching Snow White. And our heroes blow up the movie theater. But it leaves one more gremlin. The one commonly known as Stripe. They hunt down Stripe in a department store and kill him with sunlight, leaving us to a gruesome, cold-hearted death. The Chinese storekeep comes back and retrieves Gizmo, saying that Billy cannot handle the responsibility of a Mogwai. Which of course he can't. He broke every freaking rule, Billy! Gremlins was a massive success in the theater, gaining $153 million on an $11 million budget and coming in second in that week in the blockbusters. Of course, it only lost out to one other ghoulish movie, The Ghostbusters. Although praised by most critics, a lot of people demonified Gremlins for their horrible acts of violence. Being cited as one of the movies to inspire the PG-13 rating, as it only had a PG rating at first. Gremlins would also go on to win Saturn Awards for Best Director, Best Supporting Actress, Best Music, and Best Special Effects. I find that Gremlins is one of the classic horror comedy movies, playing on the tropes of the family movie during Christmas, and the family dog, and many of those things, and exploiting them to their gruesome bits. Because as this movie starts, it seems very family friendly, but then devolves into debauchery and horror and some amazing gruesome deaths. I find this movie also might have a slight critique on Western culture, as it seems to say that we as a culture steal innocent, nice things and exploit them to their most egregious levels. And I could very much see that, as we took the innocent of Gizmo and ignored the rules and just exploited it for our own gain, eventually leading to our own destruction. Gremlins was eventually followed up in 1990 with Gremlins 2: The New Batch, which I find as another amazing sequel. Gremlins was also cited as inspiring the small creature horror subgenre, inspiring movies such as Critters, Ghoulies, Troll, Hobgoblins, and Munchies. In 2013, work began on a reboot of the Gremlins franchise. And of course, it might be on hold now, but it has been stated that it will not be a reboot, but a direct sequel. Ooh, Gremlins 3. Ha ha ha! I find that idea fantastic. Ha ha! Gremlins is one of those classic 80s horror movies that you must see, filled with some amazing practical effects, as well as some funny gags, and a truly horrific character, and also a very cute character. Oh my god, Gizmo! But don't be fooled by the family-friendly nature of the beginning. It is, of course, a horror movie in the end. Now, if you... Wait, you hear that? What was that? What's going on? Hey, what's going on? Hey, what? Hey, that's not funny.
Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Macabre Movie Mania. What'd you think of Gremlins and Gremlins 2? And don't you think Gizmo is the cutest? Let me know in the comments below, and hit that thumbs up if you agree that Gizmo is the cutest. And don't forget, I do voting for my episodes of Macabre Movie Mania, so make sure you follow me at wizard_Matt to get your vote in for the next episode. And if you're not too busy, check out one of these two videos, they are very awesome. Thanks again.